Good morning from beautiful Brisbane, Australia. How are you this morning? It's wonderful to be here with you, and thanks for coming along and joining in, or thanks for watching the replay. Welcome, Conscious Warriors, to another morning of, well, let's see, we're going to go on a bit of an adventure this morning. It's a bit different to the other mornings, but it's great to be here with you, and I want to give you a real life example this morning of what it's like to have one word one person says trigger you at the unconscious level and send you into a deep sleep, and then you can't sleep the next night. No, I kid. No, well, it actually happened, but I want to give you the example. I want to give you how I worked through it, and I actually did some research around this as well, and it's turning into a much bigger subject. But we're going to keep it nice and simple this morning, mainly because I've had an hour and a half sleep and have been running around, with you all and joking and doing funny memes and stuff. Good morning, Michelle. How are you today? Let me know how you're going. Okay, so when I was triggered on Sunday night, so we're Tuesday morning here in downtown Aussie, I was triggered Sunday night. Now, what happened was I was talking to a friend, and when we were talking, we'd actually been talking, over a period of time, and I felt, and it's a new friend, and I felt that we'd connected about our faith and our life experiences and, a few other ins and outs, just little bits, like, we both hate spiders. Nothing major. But when we were talking, they said to me, "Oh, I can see we have differences now." And they said something along the lines of, you look at the past and how you're processing things, and that's good. That's your work. That's what you're passionate about. And I'm here now, walking in the now. And yeah, for me, that was like this big slap in the face for starters. I'm like, I don't know what triggered me right now. In that moment, I didn't know what triggered me, but I knew that it triggered me, and I was ropeable. I was furious. I'm standing there and I'm like, okay, calm down. They probably didn't mean it, etc., etc. And I thought, I need to wrap my mind around what I need to say in this moment, knowing that once this moment's gone, it's gone. So I took a deep breath and I said, because it was a male I was talking to, and I said, look, you're right. I said, but I have a gift. I have an ability to be able to look at what's happened in the past, put it all in an order, and that saves a lot of people around the world a lot of time in their recovery process, because once I put it in an order and I teach them like that, they can continue to move through it. I said it's just the ability that I have to do. I said, now men, and I said, and I've noticed this in the group I've got, men don't talk about what's happening for them. Men move through what's happening for them. I said, so one of the gentlemen in my group, he'll play his guitar and that's his movement. That's how he processes his stuff. Another gentleman in our group, he makes the most beautiful craft work, and that's how he moves through his stuff. And those of us in group know who I'm talking about and know that that person has processed some pretty serious stuff to keep going and growing and moving. And the person stood there and said to me, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I see that. And I was done then. I was like, I know that I've been triggered at the unconscious level here. I don't know why. And I've just got to get out of here. And I said, okay, I've got to go. See you later. I've got to go home for dinner. And I was very kind and I said, thank you and blah, blah, blah. And the blah, blah, blah is, and on we went. So anyhow, I got home, did all the usual, prepared for yesterday morning. And then Monday morning I woke up, didn't get to gym, don't know why. And then I did my Facebook Live yesterday, and then I went, I know that I'm triggered still, so I'm just going to have a rest and let my mind rest, okay? And I thought, I'll have a nap, then I'll get up and go to gym. Well, I had no idea the extent of the trigger that happened to me. It knocked me out for 5 hours. I couldn't believe it. I was floored. I woke up in shock. I woke up and I could feel that I wasn't grounded. And I went, okay, this is actually increasing in severity, so I need to do some research around this. Now, I went, and as I researched, I've come upon this absolute goldmine of information, which I am putting together in a book for all of us, because it's not only is it gold, it's vital for us in understanding the neurological impact of trauma and shame together. Now, I found this quote and I want to read it to you because of its significance of what science has discovered about the impact of shame equating to trauma. Okay, so let me just grab the infographic. Okay, now, actually that's not it. That's the page in the book that I've started writing. But let's go with that. Actually, I'll take that off because you won't be able to read that, and I'll get the other one. All right, you should be able to read this. So this is a quote by a lady called Hilary McBride. So when I think about the neurobiology of shame, it actually makes so much sense why shame is something we don't want to talk about, because it actually does something to our body. Generally, what happens when we have an experience of being reduced or humiliated or devalued in some way, it signals through neuroception to certain parts of our brain, this is dangerous. And our hypothalamus and pituitary glands start to emit all sorts of chemicals into our bloodstream that actually get us really activated and worked up. And it changes the way we store memory. It changes the way our body responds. Shame can actually do the same thing to your body that trauma can do. Well, when I read that yesterday, I was like, my goodness, shame is doing exactly what trauma's doing. Right, then I have questions. Because when it said here, when it said the three things, when we have, now these are the important things that I want you to remember, okay? Because you will need to identify these emotions when it happens for you in the moment. So when you're feeling reduced, okay, so you're feeling less than, I was in that conversation and I started to feel less than because of how I processed my trauma. Humiliated, when we feel humiliated, when we feel that somebody is treating us as less than as well. Then what was the third one, girls? Okay, and when we feel devalued. So when someone's intimating to us that we have no value in their life because of who and how we are. Morning, Merv. How you going? Morning, Katja, Diana. So I want you to remember those things. So when you're in a conversation, remember we're conscious warriors. We're turning this into a conscious process. So if I'm in a conversation, it will trigger me at the unconscious level if I feel devalued, if I feel humiliated, and if I feel, oh, crikey. Yeah, our memory gets stored differently, doesn't it? Okay, let me just pull this back up again. Okay, if I feel reduced, humiliated, or devalued. Right, I think I should write those up. Let's see. I'll put these in the comments, these three words, so that you can make a note somewhere. Reduced, humiliated, devalued. Okay, so I want you to remember these words, all right? So when I was in that conversation, I felt devalued. I felt that we had reached a space where I no longer held any value because I was different. So this is what So in my discovery session yesterday, let me just see where we're up to. So when they spoke to me, it felt like they were, saying, it was a backhanded way of them saying that I'm still stuck in mud, okay, and that they are getting their life together. So, and it was that one word. I can see our differences. I can see that we're different, all right? So whether my internal response was right or wrong, or the other person meant the implications I picked up on, I don't know. And it's not important in my overall recovery journey. It is important if I want to continue to connect with this person to have a discussion about what happened for me. But what is more important to address immediately is the unconscious trigger knocking me out solidly for 5 hours, all right? So, because it was getting worse even after the 5 hours, we know that it's impacting us at the neurobiological level. It's impacting us with all the brain chemistry, and we're headed into hypoarousal, into that shutdown phase, all right? And we don't want to do that. So as I woke up and I still felt triggered and I began to search for what was happening and the word different stood out, I asked myself this one important question. Did I feel embarrassed or ashamed? So the answer means one of two things. If I felt embarrassed, my response was about a behaviour, all right? But if I felt ashamed, it meant I felt fatally flawed. That emphasis on the word fatal really hit home for me, okay? So I recognised that I felt in that moment fatally flawed at the who I am space. But why would I feel this way when I know who I am, why I am here, and building a life of purpose? And I came to understand that if at an unconscious level, okay, so this is the wiring that happens in our childhood at the unconscious level. If at the unconscious level I was feeling fatally flawed, then the trigger was a protective mechanism meant to keep me safe. In order to turn this around, I needed to be able to identify why the word different had triggered me and why I must feel at an unconscious level not safe being different. Okay? Now, I want you to really wrap your mind around that. It is at an unconscious level that this was happening. And when we're conscious warriors, we're prepared to bring it into the consciousness so that we can process it. We can understand better why the trigger happens and we can begin to break free from it. Another question I asked myself was, what unmet need do I need to acknowledge within myself? I decided to sit down and write out a stream of consciousness. And I found this really lovely quote too. Shame should be reserved for the things we do, not the circumstances life puts on us. And this is what's happening at the unconscious level. We have to be willing to bring it forward as an adult into the conscious so that we can process it, all right? We can move into a greater state of recovery. And they were circumstances beyond our control, but now we can bring them forward, all right? So when I sat down, grabbed the old pen and paper, and because I find that having that tactile approach helps. So typing on the computer doesn't work for me. I like all the sensations of writing because I do a lot of journaling and have done for years. So when I sat down and I began feeling the emotions happening around the initial trigger point. So the initial trigger point was the word different. So I just sat in that space, in those emotions, and I put together the information I had from the questions I had asked, etc., that I've just spoken about. And I wrote out, this is literally the stream of conscious that I wrote out. I am not safe to be who I am. It's the non-verbal message behind the words. It's the body language. And for me, it's a shock because we've been speaking for hours in agreement. Then out of the blue, I'm told we're different. I have to have an unmet need for the shame to trigger. No, I got triggered because of feeling unsafe to be different. Then I need to start feeling good about being different. I need to feel safe that I am different and that God has got this. He's got where I'm going. In my family, there is shame around being different because if you're different in my family, it means you're rocking the boat. So it means that I'm rocking the boat of already established family rules and family patterns that non-verbally state we bury our discomforts, our family baggage, we bury our hurt emotions, we bury who we are for the sake of keeping the family together at all costs, right? In my family, you cannot be different and belong to this family. So the message that I unconsciously got from that conversation was, you don't belong. Okay? That one word, different, just came together into this space of when that person says I'm different, at an unconscious level they're saying I don't belong. But when I don't belong in my family of origin, that means I'm unsafe because I'm a child and I have to have somebody who takes care of me as a child. I hope this helps you see that these unconscious triggers, when brought to the fore, we can then begin to turn them around. For me, there's more work to do around it, but that's okay because now I've identified that in order to turn this around, I need to start being really comfortable and really conscious of feeling good about being different. That it's okay, that I am safe to feel different because as an adult, I can meet these needs, okay? I can determine what those needs are and I can feel safe. I can build relationships, and even though we have differences of opinions, I can feel safe because I do belong. I can build that feeling of belonging inside of me. That's up to me to be conscious and do that, okay? So when we identify the difference, the unmet need, the not belonging, this is what the family message was. We begin as adults to build the opposite feelings into us. We consciously choose that if I was in that situation again, even though as an adult I was able to have the adult side of the conversation, internally everything's going off. So the whole chemical reaction's going off, the emotions are going off. And because it's unconscious, we have no control over it. But what I would do in the future, and what I will do, is identify when my thoughts go down the road of I don't belong, and so on. And I will build that feeling into me and those thoughts into me that the truth is I do belong. I do have a community that I belong to, and I do have a place in that community. And it doesn't matter if I'm different or not, we're all different. But we are safe to be different, okay? So using the word I am safe to be different means that it gives me the courage and the confidence to go into that community and simply just continue to be who I am. Now, I know that's a lot to take on board, but you can rewatch the video. As Michelle says, you're going to watch it again. Rewatch it again. Know that I'm working on the book to come out with all of this so that you can read it and you can work through it. You can identify your trigger and you'll know the process, the step-by-step process of how to go about this and how to turn it around. So as you go through the experiences of life, you know that you will get triggered. And this is what we say in group. We know that we will get triggered, but we also know that we're responsible and I'll get to your question in a sec. We know that we're responsible to build into us the truth that we do belong, that we are part of, whatever community we're in, and we are welcome. Now, that's my family's message, but then you need to work out yours as well. Different from what Diana was, as a child, I was different from my family. Okay? So in my family, I wanted to talk about emotions. I wanted to have the hard conversations, and no one in my family wanted to have them. If, even as a young child, I was upset, the non-verbal cues were, we don't talk about that. So even when my mother and father and brother disappeared overnight, and I was put with my grandmother and grandfather, whom I loved, they were my favourites, it didn't matter. They stripped away my family of origin, but I still didn't, and I didn't know where they went or what had happened. I'm 4. But even being with my grandparents, it's still, the message in our family was, you do not talk about the emotions, you do not talk about any of it. Because if you want to have these conversations, Linda, you do not belong. Okay? And because you want to have these conversations, you're different. All right? No one in my family wants to have these conversations. Okay? And if they want to have the conversation, they want it from the perspective that I have to get on board and be who they want me to be. And I won't do it. I just won't do it anymore. And why would I, when I get to come and have conversations with real people like you who want to have the hard conversations and want to be free of what we've been unconsciously programmed to behave like. Okay, so I know it's a lot to take on board. I'll let you know when the book's out. Don't hold your breath because there's a lot going into it. And there'll be a lot more of the neurobiology that goes into it as well. And a lot more around the shame side of it as well, where shame and trauma line up. Because it's a really powerful punch to break free from it all. Okay? Okay. Thanks, girls, for joining in. I will go back and get to your comments. I really need to have some coffee now and wrap my mind around all of this because it's always an ongoing process. And we need to do this process. If I can say one last thing, we need to do this process and be willing to do this process because we want to get back into life. We want to have healthy relationships. And healthy relationships also mean that we're able to say to people, listen, what's just happened has triggered me. This is what's happened for me. And, I'm not making them responsible for it. I'm taking responsibility for it. And like I was supposed to go to morning tea with a girlfriend of mine today, and I had to say to her, look, I've been unconsciously triggered, and it's going to take me a few days to get through it. And because she's one of my closest friends, she goes, yep, not a problem, let me know if you need me or, when you're ready. And this is why we have the conversations about our mental health. None of my immediate friends suffer from mental health, but they all are aware that I will always tell them if something's happening for me and if I need help or if I just need someone to listen. And they are the types of relationships we need to develop. Okay? All right, beautiful ladies. I will see you again tomorrow morning. And feel free to rewatch. And I'll catch you later on. Thanks for joining in. Bye for now.